Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit of commentary. My name's Grandmaster Daniel Gormally. Welcome to my channel, Hometown Chess Hero. And we're going to be looking at the tournament of Sitges. So we're going to be following Keith Arkell, the great GM, from originally from the Midlands, but now living in Paynton. And we're going to be commentating on his game. But before we do that, we're going to look at his game in the previous round. Apparently he escaped from like a huge... So actually we'll flip the board because show from Keith's point of view, he was black. I think it's 2190. Young guy. They're all young players now in these opens. You can't escape it. Myself and Keith, we're like dinosaurs. I'm a bit younger than Keith, but we're all like dinosaurs compared to the people we're playing. He's playing this... so what's he playing as black? He's playing this, I believe Andrew Martin calls this the banker, when you come back with a queen. So the other moves here, you can also go queen a5, you can go queen e6, you can go queen d6. I believe that queen e5 is actually a line that a Russian GM plays occasionally. But queen a5 is the main line, right? But queen d8 was played. And very typical structure that Keith plays with a 4 versus, get his ideal structure, 4 versus 3 on the king's side. This all looks okay so far, but a little bit of pressure. Yeah, I mean queen a5 is another move, but I think bishop g4 looks okay. Yeah. Can you go e6 now, maybe? Is a possibility. Yeah, knight d7 looks reasonable, yeah. Knight b6, yeah. Maybe e6. Or knight bd5 is another move. a5, yeah. Reasonable. Yeah. It's a little bit of pressure. I mean, you could... The problem with like e6, maybe there's some kind of exchanges here. So white has quite a good position here, probably. The problem is if you castle, you're kind of castling into it. You could castle, though. You could castle. Maybe castling, but there is ideas at h4, f4, rook g1. Right. Yeah. Queen e7, yeah, looks normal. f4. Yeah, knight h5 you're going to take and go d5, so knight h5 is not possible. You can't castle queen side because a5 is hanging. You could consider a move like queen b4, trying to exchange queens, but then maybe that pawn will become weak bottom b4, or maybe white will just avoid the exchange, play like queen d3, maybe setting up a rook g6. Castles looks like the most likely move. King f8. Ooh. Really? Ooh, I don't like that. Okay, there's obviously a reason why you wouldn't castle here. Maybe there was something scary here for white. For black. Sorry, there's something that was scaring black. It does look like a little bit of a dubious position for black, I'll be honest. But, you know, it might be okay. It looks scary. Maybe some kind of queen move there is possible. I'd say queen d3 is one idea. Maybe white wants to double rooks and then just go all in like rook g6, you know. Rook g2, bring the rook. I'm surprised at king f8. That looks wrong, like a mouse slip. But obviously you wouldn't mouse slip in an over the board game, right? f5, wow, very sharp, yeah. Good move actually, because if GF would probably be losing because I guess you're just going to take. Looks horrible, right? So like here, you take and then you can check and then d5 or d5 immediately. There's some real nastiness happening. Don't see a good... Probably d5 immediately, because if you go check and then go d5, there's knight e4, maybe. Although it still looks very bad because you moved the queen, right? The d5 immediately looks winning. Because now I'm threatening check, and then bishop f6. Although you do have rook hg8 maybe. No, but then bishop f6 and rook check, yeah. And win the queen. So, so very clever move f5 actually, very strong move. You took with a pawn, and then deep, yeah, this is like deep doo-doo for black, sorry. You don't, yeah, very clever idea by white, just opening up the position. So if you take, rook d5 is a move, I guess. Maybe just rook d5. Looks very scary. Clever idea by white. Maybe bishop d5. I mean, yeah, this just, I mean, for one thing, you can just try to regain the pawn, but you're playing for a lot more here. You're playing for a lot more than a pawn. Now, you can't take because of bishop g7 and bishop d5. So if you go, you probably have to go here to try and set this up, but it's very suspicious. It might even be rook g6 here. Like knight d5, rook g, yeah, wow, this looks horrendously disgusting. Like, yeah, fg, there's rook d7, win the queen, right? Yeah, so I can understand why he didn't want to do that. So knight e8, which looks horrible. He was forced to play. Yeah, he took. Maybe you can survive this, but I mean, if nothing else, white could just take on c6 and regain the pawn. I mean, d6 is another move. That's what he played, yeah. Certainly the most testing move. Queen, yeah, you got to prevent queen f6, I guess. Yeah, it feels like this is almost forced win territory. I mean, you can bring okay. There's several counter moves here. You could play rook d4. You could play rook to e1. You could play d7. Rook d4 is a bit vague. He has gone d7. Rook d8. Queen a5. Yeah. One thing I'd say about Keith, he's very resilient, you know, it's probably one of his main strengths, I think. Very tough to put away, and he's very good at finding resources. Rook d6, which you'd have to be in this position because it is very scary to play for black. You know, so you have to have that kind of mental equilibrium, which I think he's got. I would probably, I mean, maybe on a good day I would defend this, but I'd probably get very upset here. And start swearing and, you know, I mean, queen e7 is a move. No, he went knight g, yeah, queen e7 probably loses for some reason. Oh, just rook e1, right? Yeah, rook e1 you can't take because of queen d8. And then queen h8 at the end and rook e8. So line is queen e7, rook e1, queen d6, queen d8, king g7, queen h8, king h8, rook e8, king g7, queen to pawn. And then you end up being a rook up. So you've got knight g7 to cover e8. There may be more than one way to win this position. Looks super scary. Rook e1. Again, you know, we're talking about lucky players. We mentioned Daniel Fernandez. Keith is a lucky player. If I had this as black, I would lose, you know. The guy would find the right moves. Maybe it's just the face, you know. The face is like putting people off. But my face is such a pretty face that people just want to beat it. So maybe it's a face thing. Yeah. Queen e5, reasonable. Queen e7, maybe? Well, this is also hanging. You could just take on f7. I mean, take on f7, yeah. How the hell did you survive this? This is as bad. I mean, we really need Wednesday Soda comment on this game and how bad it is. Queen e7, I would suggest. As a possible win. Because, I mean, the endgame looking very good for white now, with the bishop dominating on g6. I mean, I would surprise me. There's lots of ways to win. There's also rook g1 as an option. I mean, what does black have? I mean, this is probably the biggest comeback of all time. I mean, how the hell can you win from here? This is unbelievable. Like, this is the most shocking turnaround ever. But again, like, it might be a lack of experience of White's part. Whether he was got in shorter time at this point, we don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I would be very tempted to play him like Rook G1 here. Also, Queen E7, simple. When you get a winning position, you want to keep it as simple as possible. Bishop E8 looks reasonable though. Don't see anything wrong with it. So he's given up this. Okay, you could take. Are you winning if you take? Maybe not. Normally the rooks are stronger than the queen, but here you can. Yeah, but this is a winning position. Exchange up. So he's still winning. Maybe he could have done it in a more efficient way. He's still winning. This is good enough. Queen G4, yeah. Take on B7 or F3 is another move. Or he could also go for the attack with a move like Queen F8 followed by Rook D8. No, you've got to be careful about this. Sorry. Forgetting that. But one thing, yeah, I'm forgetting about this counterplay ideas like Queen A. Well, is it counterplay? Maybe not actually, because Queen here you just go back. So you could even take on B7. With Queen here you go King A3. But you can play maybe Queen F7 as a move. It went B3, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, threatening Queen C2, yeah. There is Queen G8 here as well. Maybe as a possibility. F4, Rook D3, F3. Rook E3 might be winning, I don't know. Yeah, you start playing moves like King A2, it's just to me that you feel uncomfortable. I mean, something's gone slightly wrong, but it's still winning. But why bother with a move like King A2? It's kind of a weird move, right? Again, I'm not using the engine for this. I'm just... But there was a position later that Jonathan Hawkins showed me on Facebook chat. So, we'll go there in a minute. Yeah, it's this position. So White's really gone a little bit wrong to allow this. No, I think it's a little bit later actually. So he's gone Queen C1 to threaten. Well, the idea I think if H3 you go Queen G1, and the knight can't go to G2 because of the pin. So he goes Queen E5. Yeah, it's getting a little bit random by this point. Yeah, this is a point where you could just simply win the game on the spot. And then B6. And then it's the end of the game. I mean, you could probably even play that variation tempo down, right? But somehow he ends up losing the game, which is incredible. So he goes check. Obviously, no point. You know, when you're winning, I think that's one of the key things. When you're winning, try to find a clear-cut line. Look for checks and captures. Look for the forcing variations. You know, Queen G1 is a forcing move, but it's not a forcing move in the right direction. So, yeah, he faffs around. And oh, he allows. Yeah, that's what I was saying about Keith being resourceful. He's finding this idea of Queen D2 picking off the rook. Suddenly, actually, who's better here? Probably black, right? Because this pawn is so far advanced. I mean, white must have been having kittens at this point. Absolutely horrendous. Yeah, and he resigned because you queen. So possibly shorter time. There at the end for white to collapse as much as he did. I'm not sure, but what I would say is it's an experience issue. Like, you know, that guy needs to learn from that. Learn from the pain of losing that game. He played well, but you know, make sure that if you ever get a game as winning as that again, you put it away, right? So let's have a look and let's see. Keith is playing in this. This round 8, he's got white. I was looking at the game earlier, and here we go. Here's Keith's position. So let's how much time is there? They're not showing the time on this. But white's just gone h3. So I was looking at it earlier and white was +1, but I'm not checking the engine about. It was around about here. Actually, 92 was not the best move. There was something better. Maybe h3 immediately. 92, the evaluation dropped. So he's playing against Roberto Florinegu. Not sure how to pronounce his surname. I think he's a Spanish guy, young guy. They're all young, like I say. 2268. So black has managed to exchange the bishops. Yeah, so white is now black to play. So one thing that white could consider doing is either rook g3 or knight g3 to h5 as one possibility. And what black should be maybe looking to do is maybe tuck the king away from the g file, you know, one option. Another option is to try and activate the rook somehow, but the problem is rook e4 runs into knight g3 right tempo. Could you go knight b4? By the way, there's also this Firouzja match that's going on at the moment. People have been very critical of this match because there was a game earlier. Well, essentially, okay, for anyone unfamiliar with this, Alireza Firouzja is a chess player originally from Iran, I believe, but he moved to France. And he now represents France. And he's trying to qualify for the candidates on rating, I believe. So he's not quite... He was over 2,800 at one point. He was one of the youngest players ever to get over 2,800. With him and Magnus, were like the youngest. But he's dipped below that because of poor form. He hasn't played much. He's talked about how he wants to possibly study fashion. He's been studying fashion in Paris. Possibly part of the reason why he wanted to move to France in the first place. So he's kind of, yeah, it's interesting that we've had two top players recently, and maybe this is a sort of result of the whole thing about chess, and that when you do it for so long you get a bit sick of it, and also engines are kind of killing creativity now. I think these two very creative guys in Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen, and they're saying, look, we're kind of a little bit sick of chess. But he's saying, look, I'm coming back. I've still got this passion for chess, Firouzja. So essentially, they set up this match for him. The French Federation seemed to have set up a match for him to potentially qualify. So he's playing 3 different opponents. He played Debegatsi, who's originally, I believe, from Georgia, moved to Belgium. I played him a few times. Good player. I think I've got like 1 draw, 1 loss, and 1 win against him. Alexander Debegatsi, but his openings aren't very good. Like for a player against 2,700 opposition, well, say the same about me, right? But he beat Debegatsi 2-0. There was one game yesterday where Debegatsi lost the exchange, and people were saying, "Well, that was like incredible. What's he doing?" But again, you know, it's easy to sit there and criticise. When you look at the game, you know, at the board, he might have thought, "Well, this is very good compensation." And he didn't see another good continuation. Now, he's now moved on to Chekachev. He's got to beat Chekachev 2-0, and then potentially maybe the last opponent, he's got to beat him at least 1.5 to gain points, potentially beat him 2-0. I don't even know if he even wins 6-0, will he qualify? We don't even know. but he's probably got to win 6-0. So today he was playing Chekachev. Chekachev resigned in an equal position. Very surprising development. However, when I looked at the game, it was quite a sharp position. Chekachev was short of time. I'm not sure if people have been brought off or not. It's very unclear. We couldn't really say for certain, can we? Nobody knows whether people have been brought off or not in that match. But what I would say is, I just think that given that they're Firouzja's compatriots, is their heart really in it? Do they even want to beat Firouzja? They want Firouzja to qualify for Canada. If you're a French chess player, well, Debagarts is actually from Belgium, but I believe Chekachev is now French, right? He's under the French Federation. He was originally, I believe, from Russia. And the guy who plays in the last round, I can't remember the guy who plays in the last round, but similar to Chekachev, like, moved to France. So they want Firouzja to qualify. So it must be a very kind of difficult situation to be in. Let's imagine you're the 6th game and Firouzja's won all 5. Do you really want to turn over Firouzja in that situation? Yeah, it might help your rating a little bit, but it doesn't help Firouzja. So it's a little bit of an awkward situation, but I think Reddit have gone into kind of overdrive with this, and like they'll have all their conspiracy theories, and Firouzja's opponents have been brought off and everything. So have we had any more moves in this game? We haven't ever had any more moves. So what Canada moves has Black got? One move that strikes me as being possible is knight b4. Because I'm like aiming at this pawn. Okay, I can't take it in the moment. Well, maybe I can because of the rook e2. Although there'll be a knight e7 fork at the end. Also maybe looking at d3 square. So what happens after knight b4? What would white play? Could you just tuck the king away? This is what Kasparov used to like to do in time trouble, like when there was a crisis approaching, you like to tuck the king away, maybe line up knight g3 to h5, attack the bishop. So king h2 is a reasonable move. I would say at this point in the game, I would say that, how would I evaluate this position? It's a tricky one to evaluate, actually. I would say you should try and evaluate positions as much as possible. I think we have had moves, actually. We have had a move. We've had bishop f6. No, have we had a move? Yeah, that's gone bishop f6. So how would I evaluate this position? I'm not sure how to evaluate this. It could well be better for black. I'm a little bit unsure about this development. It could well be better for white because white's king is much safer. Black king is a little bit, exposed. This is a little bit like the Benoni in general. It's quite hard to judge the positions a lot of time because, Keith very quickly played queen f2, which looks like a natural move, and now you are obviously got a very strong threat of rook g. So the natural, what I was talking about before, was to go king h8. And after king h8, how would Keith play? Well, one move that screams out at me is bishop d2, because I want to go bishop. I'm not sure if bishop f6 was the best move, actually. Might have been okay, though. So bishop d2. Bishop d2. Lining up bishop c3, potentially. Exchange bishops, take the sting out of the position. Looks okay, actually. Probably, I would say, roughly equal, close to equal this position, if we're trying to evaluate this position. We've already had an early result in Fota-Derva, Sharma, Dushan. That was 1-0 to Fota-Derva. So what do people think about that Firouzja match? One of the things I wanted to say about that, actually, was I do think it's over, play this whole people throwing the game. It's still very hard to beat. I know there's 6 kind of older GMs, a little bit like me. They're probably a similar standard to me. I played Chekachev in a Blitz tournament. Funnily enough, me and Keith, we talked about Keith, played a 24-hour tournament. Chekachev won it. Keith came second. It was a 24-hour tournament in Le Mans. Where they have the 24-hour race. They had a 24-hour chess tournament there. And I played that with Keith like years and years ago. Must have been about 20 years ago. Keith's got a better memory than me, so he'll probably remember exactly when the tournament was. It was a long time ago. And I remember I won like a huge number of games in a row at one point. You know, they were quite... A lot of them were quite low-rated players, but I was still quite proud of myself that I won so many games. But it took so much energy out of me winning that many games. When we got to this knockout bit, or it was like a bit where you played stronger opponents, and I just drew 6 games in a row. I had no energy left at all. So from a position where I was potentially going to win the tournament, I ended up finishing 3rd, which was slightly disappointing, but still not a bad result. I think me and Keith both got good rating performances in that tournament. I remember we went to a Chinese restaurant afterwards, and we were so tired. I think we both started hallucinating. I was like falling asleep in the chair. I was like so tired. It was, I'd never been that tired before in my life. You go back to the hotel room, and you're like sleeping for hours and hours and hours. So yeah, I think Black's problem here is just the fact the king is a little bit exposed. So I think White will go bishop d2, bishop c3. But yeah, the argument I make about that whole thing is I think Firouzja's got the 2750. His current rating is about 2750 or whatever it is. People are saying he doesn't, he shouldn't go through. I just feel like anyone who's got to that level just deserves tremendous amount of respect. I've never got near like 2750, 2800 or whatever these guys are at, It's just so hard to get to that level. People are crabbing him saying, you're playing weak opposition. I think a lot of this is like this Wesley So guys. It's just, I don't really like this, what Wesley So is coming out with. He doesn't seem like a very pleasant person. He just seems like he's squaring up for a fight all the time. Well, maybe you could look at it another way and say, actually, Wesley So is quite an interesting character. He's coming out with all this stuff on Twitter. People are like having a go at him at Twitter. And he's coming back at them. Most of the time, a lot of these kind of chess celebrities or good chess players, they tend to ignore people on Twitter or anyone kind of social media. But he's actually batting back at them. It's quite funny when we look at what he's saying. So it's quite interesting in that respect, I suppose. But yeah, it's kind of a strange situation. But the other problem that Black has is this knight here is not a great piece. It's like, what does it do? It can't go to g4, go to f7, go to g8 maybe. If you go to g8, you kind of your king's a little bit. I mean, you could potentially. So, have we had any more moves? Let's refresh it. Yeah, we have. Bishop d2. This is what I was predicting. Bishop d2 and then bishop c3 and then exchange bishops. And if you exchange bishops, you also get access to g5. So you could potentially plant a rook on g5. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not. But Black needs a good plan here, I feel. I'm not sure. If we go back a couple of moves, I think bishop f6 was not the best. I think knight b4. The problem is, like, if you went here, maybe rook g3 anyway, or knight g3 we're saying. Or bishop d2. I don't know, there's some variation like this, right? You win the queen, but then you have to give out the exchange, but this doesn't look good for Black at all. Unless it's rook e8, I guess. Maybe this is going to be an issue. Maybe. But still queen h4. Bishop's coming. Don't like this for Black. So maybe bishop f6 was okay. It's very hard to judge. It's not my game. When you're playing a game, you tend to have a much better feel for the game because you really have to. You have to have an idea what's going on than somebody who's commentating, I would say. Even someone who's commentating for the entire game. It's just at the board, you have to be certain about a lot of stuff. So he's gone king h8, bishop d2. Yeah, so what should Black play now? Doesn't seem clear to me. Who do people think will win the candidates? I think Gukesh is potentially getting through. Apparently, he might only need a draw. It'd be great if Gukesh could get through. We've already got Pragananda in there. So Indian chess is looking very strong in the candidates. You've got Pragananda, Vidit, and potentially maybe Gukesh as well. Could be looking at another Indian world champion, potentially. That would be very interesting. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see an India versus China final. Wouldn't that be a massive thing, right? India versus China final could eclipse the Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky, USA versus Russia. Similar to that, two rising superpowers taking each other on over the chessboard. You've also got the Nakamura thing in there. You've got Nakamura representing the streamers. Nakamura's probably got as good a chance as anyone in the candidates. He would have learned some lessons from the previous candidates and probably have a slightly better idea what to do this time around. I think that will be key. He's had that experience of playing in he played in candidates before that, I think even before that, but a more recent one certainly won't do him any harm. To be totally honest, I don't want to see Nepomny actually get through. I don't want to see Caruana get through. And the reason for that is I don't think it's a very exciting match. I think Ding versus Nepomny actually, from a personality point of view, Ding versus Caruana, it's a bit of a boring match, right? How do you hype it up? It's, Ding versus Caruana, they're nice guys, but they're a bit boring. What's exciting about that? For me, there's no excitement. So I kind of get a gut feeling it's going to be maybe Nakamura get through, or it's going to be... If someone like Pragananda somehow got through the candidates, that would be a massive story. Someone that young getting through. I think if Pragananda plays Ding, you never know. Pragananda might be improving so fast he could beat Ding. I think if Ding plays Nakamura, I think Ding would win. If Ding played Caruana, I'm saying I don't really want to see that match. I think if Ding played Caruana, I think Caruana might win actually. I think if Ding played Nepomniachtchi, I think Ding would win, and I think he'd win easier than he did last time. However, I think the people he could lose to are potentially Caruana, maybe one or two others. Maybe even someone like Pragananda who's improving fast. I don't think he would lose to Nakamura. I don't think he would lose to Nepomniachtchi. But he could potentially lose to a Caruana. I think Caruana, to be fair, he deserves a World Championships, to win a World Championships, in my opinion. He's been as close as anyone. He nearly beat Magnus when Magnus was on top form as well. So, and he's played great chess over the last 15 years, really. So, yeah, going back to this game, I'm not sure what Black should play now. It looks like an awkward situation because now suddenly this knight is not, I was saying before, you want to go knight b4 and activate the knight. But it's not really looking like a great option now for Black because White could even consider just taking, right? The knight is coming to c4. It's quite like White's position now. Whereas a few moves ago I wasn't so sure. Maybe rook e4 is a move. I think Black's slightly on the back foot now. Now knight c3, you can move the rook somewhere. Where would you move the rook? That's also another question. So I think White is clearly back. What's the engine of Val now? As things stand, it's saying that White is better. So we go back a few moves. Bishop f6 was the top move, by the way. So rook e8 was a big mistake. You should have gone knight g4. Activate the knight. Now we're coming in. Very important to exchange that knight off because that knight, it's a move that humans find difficult to find, knight g4, because you look at it and you think, your first gut instinct is why wouldn't that run into rook g3, right? That looks like a stupid move because rook g3, you're pinning yourself on the G file, or you're running into a nasty pin. However, there's moves like h5, h3, bishop f6. That's why the computer would say, well, knight g4. You know, there's one thing I say to people, you know, always take your calculation a little bit further. Don't be so quick to dismiss moves. You know, a lot of players will look at knight g4. I'd probably look at knight g4. Nah, that looks terrible. Rook g3. Obviously a bad move. Let's move on. However, the computer sees it a little bit further. So if you go here, there's either maybe bishop f6 immediately. Bishop f6, knight g4, bishop h4, knight h6, king h8. Not king g7 because knight h takes f5, but king h8, rook g6, h g6. Black is probably winning there because you just exchange up. So rook g3, bishop h6, queen h3, h5 is one variation. And rook g3, bishop f6. There is knight takes f5. Bishop h4, rook g4. With the idea that if queen g4, knight h6 check, and knight takes g4. But maybe there, how did that line go again? Maybe there black would just go rook f5, rook g6, h g6, and then you are, what's the material count? Rook g3, bishop f6. Knight f5, bishop h4, rook g4, rook f5, rook takes hg. I think black's a rook up, right? But anyway, it looks like black's winning. I can't count anymore. Yeah, so, and basically if you go here, it's saying here is very, very good. Again, well, why not here? But then here. So it's funny how in these middle games you get these crucial moments, and I think that was quite a crucial moment to actually go knight g4. Yeah, so the critical variations here, but then actually it just says, wow, that's crazy, right? Just allow knight g4, that's absolutely insane. Oh, you just take. Oh, because, oh, you're hitting the, yeah, so actually my idea of going h5 is actually an even stronger move here. I was saying here, which is also not bad, or here, which is also not bad, but in fact, so once he's gone h3, which is a star move, that's what I was saying about this knight is not great now. Whereas if you went knight g4, like how do you, it could be like a Dvoretsky puzzle. How do you solve your worst placed piece? The knight on h6 is a stinker. You could have solved it the previous move. You don't solve it, and then you go king h8 and then bishop d2. And yeah, now the position is just very bad. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to see Keith win, and it'll be like, it'll put a puzzle up on Facebook and. How did I, I'm such a genius, won 20 tournaments this year, please praise me some more so I can feel better about my insecurities, I feel terrible. No, I'm only joking. No, but yeah, I think Keith might well go on to win this. If he wins this actually, what's he got, how many points, I've lost track. I know there's one guy who's only dropped half a point at the top. How's he getting on? He's actually worse. He's playing this young Russian guy, Merzin, who's quite talented. Another one is young, super kids. But he's got six. I think that Merzin might win. So Merzin will only have dropped a point, but this is round 8, so he'll be on 7 out of 8. I think Keith might be on some. If Keith wins, he'll be on 6 out of 8. Because I think he had a loss and. Had a 0-point bye, and then he won all the other games, so probably on 6. So yeah, if he wins the last 2, he could well win like a decent prize. But I think we'll stop there anyway because it's quite a long video. But yeah, interesting situation developing. Keith might be heading for another victory, and heading for that 2380, that magic 2380 barrier. What is he on again? 37, right? Actually, there's been a mistake here. Wow. And now there's a knight g4 here. The black won't find it. Well, we saw earlier that, yeah, there's been a big mistake here. So apparently, what happened was, we got to this situation. Black did go knight b4 as well, I was talking about earlier. Oh no, hang on. Because I was seeing some other variation with a knight on c3. But it doesn't seem to have happened. So bishop c3 should have been played. That's what I was saying earlier. I was surprised that he didn't play this move, bishop c3. Just nullified his bishop and then no attacking. It's often a good idea to get rid of that dark square bishop just to kill. We had a game against Hebden in Daventry about maybe a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. And I remember showing it to Keith after he said at one point, why do you go bishop h6 to change off the dark square bishop? And then you kind of take the defang him. And I thought actually it was really good advice. Even though that wasn't the best move according to the engine, in a practical sense, a game where a draw would have been okay, that would have been a good option. But I didn't play that and ended up losing. Similar advice here. It's really okay. You've got moves like knight d3, but they don't do much. You just come back. But taking is not bad practically. But if you've got to find knight g4, I don't think this guy will find knight g4. If he doesn't find knight g4, there's probably a good idea of what White's done. Yeah, he's gone rook e4. Not a terrible move actually, but knight g4. He keeps missing this knight g4, which. Tougher to find now. I think it was easier earlier. Now it's tough. It's not so obvious, but the idea is you're hitting this rook. If you take, you know, the guy's 22.60. He's probably not going to find that. Magnus would probably find that. I wouldn't find knight g4 either. But rook e4 is a good move. Decent move. Not a terrible move. If you take, oh, there's tic tacs here. So you're not going to take, you're probably going to go b3 and solidify the knight. But then the rook will come. So good chances I think for Keith, yeah. What about rook e8 here? Oh, rook e8, that's probably what will happen, right? We're praying for Roberto to get resolved. Stop the gloating status. I'm only kidding, well, you know, I said that so many times, I'm obviously not kidding, am I? But yeah, good luck to Keith. Good luck to James Morby, guy I used to coach. Nice guy, actually. He's playing as well. He's having a reasonable tournament, not a great tournament. James works for Goldman Sachs, so he's got loads of money. So hopefully, if he sees this video and sees me praising him, he might send me a $5 for Christmas. Jonah Willow's doing well. Jonah... He's having a reasonable tournament, playing against WGM. Rajat as well, young player from France, he's doing very well in this game. He's not had a great tournament, but he's still battling away. He's a bit of a battler. So that's mainly, there's not many English players playing, to be honest, not many English-based players playing. It's a real mixture, loads of players from all over the shop, really. Lots of Indian players, as you would expect. I think some of them get, if not all of them, will get some backing from the Indian Federation. Not only will they get possibly conditions from the organisers, but they might also get their expenses covered by the Indian Federation. Maybe get some extra payment as well. Good. You know, it's a shame that it doesn't happen with all federations. English Chess Federation is very poor at supporting their players, in my opinion. They have their favourites. The favourites get lots and lots. Everybody else gets nothing. Yeah, that is, I suppose that's capitalism, isn't it, for you? But anyway, I think that's enough of me waffling on. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll continue. I'm trying to get to 200 subscribers. We're very, very close to 200 subscribers.